Part 4, Chapter 41 of Short History of the Christian Church by John Fletcher Hurst. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 41 The Evangelical Alliance. In 1846, the first session of the Evangelical Alliance was held in London. It was of American origin, but soon found sympathy in England and on the Continent. It was an attempt to bring together all the evangelical Protestant churches upon such a platform as they agreed to without the sacrifice of their denominational individuality, with a view to oppose existing social evils, to counteract the influence of political Romanism, and to become a common brotherhood of Christians in all lands. The doctrinal basis of the English alliance is the divine inspiration, authority, and sufficiency of the Holy Scriptures, the right and duty of private judgment in interpreting the Scriptures, the unity of the Godhead and the Trinity of persons therein, the natural depravity of man, the incarnation of the Son of God, his atonement for sinners, and his mediatorial intercession and reign, the work of the Holy Spirit in the regeneration and sanctification of the sinner, the immortality of the soul, the resurrection of the body, the world's general judgment by Christ, the reward of the righteous and the punishment of the impenitent, the divine institution of the Christian ministry, and the obligation and perpetuity of the sacraments of baptism and the Lord's Supper. The Evangelical Alliance has held its sessions in various cities of the Continent, and in London and New York. The intervals between the sessions have not been uniform, but have generally been 3 or 4 years. The New York session in 1873 was the most successful. The last session was in Copenhagen, and was attended by members of the royal Danish family. Striking illustrations of the active interference of the alliance in behalf of persecuted Protestants are not wanting. For example, at the Basel session of 1879, the Emperor of Austria was petitioned, and successfully, to relieve the persecuted Protestants of his dominions from oppression. A like protest has not yet been completely successful in securing from the Czar of Russia liberty for the oppressed Protestants of the Baltic provinces, who have been recently deprived of many of their privileges. In December, 1887, the American branch of the Evangelical Alliance held a session of 3 days in Washington. It was called a Christian Conference, and was participated in by representatives of more religious bodies than any previous session of the Alliance. The trend of the papers and discussions was an exposure of the evils of the times and a marking out of methods for advanced Christian work. Another important meeting was held in Boston in December, 1889. A hopeful feature of the Evangelical Alliance in its new management is the serious discussion of practical problems rather than depicting the manifold dangers of Romanism. This enlargement of its field of work, together with a disposition to recognize in the Catholic Church a friend rather than an enemy in meeting the crying social evils of modern life, a disposition which was manifested in its last session at Florence in 1871, will greatly add to the influence of this venerable society. End of chapter 41.